You know your life is really sad when a possessed doll can get a girlfriend, but you can't. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my look at the Child's Play franchise. Today, our pal Chucky gets lucky in Bride of Chucky. The reviews were not too kind to Child's Play 3, calling it a mindless, repetitive sequel. It had a modest box office return of $20 million, but the poor reception meant no follow-up in the foreseeable future in 1991. Don Mancini has said that it is his least favorite in the series, blaming a lack of ideas for a film that was rushed into theaters 9 months after Child's Play 2. The film's director, Jack Bender, has called the movie silly, and even Brad Dourif has said that it's his least favorite. The franchise might as well have been dead and buried. But a little Wes Craven picture titled Scream revived the slasher genre in the late 90s with its blend of horror and self-awareness. Inspired, Mancini and David Kirshner decided to bring back Chucky, but take the series in a different direction and make it more of a dark comedy. Mancini caught a spark of inspiration after seeing Bride of Frankenstein and created a girlfriend for Chucky. Jennifer Tilly, coming off a big performance in 1996's Bound, was cast as the titular bride, Tiffany. Asian director Ronnie Yu, who you may remember directed 2003's Freddy vs. Jason, was hired to direct after Mancini and Kirshner were impressed with his film, The Bride with White Hair. Bride of Chucky would be staged as a road trip Bonnie and Clyde story, centering around Chucky and Tiffany taking advantage of another young couple, which included a young Katherine Heigl. Would this revival 7 years later work in Chucky's favor? Let's take a look. The movie opens with Officer Bailey entering a police evidence depository that has some cheeky references to other slasher icons. He takes nothing but a garbage bag to deliver to a mysterious woman in exchange for some cash. Parked in an abandoned warehouse, he waits for the woman, but is curious as to what the contents of the garbage bag are. After killing the officer, Tiffany steals his lighter and removes some familiar remains from the bag.
Well, hello, Dolly.
We then get a montage of Tiffany rebuilding Chucky set to Rob Zombie's Living Dead Girl. Ah, Mr. Zombie, I thought I had seen the last of you in October. I do like this song though. She completes her handiwork and we get the totally new look for our main man. I love the execution and build up to the reveal for the new Chucky design, and it's certainly one of my favorite looks for him. I think more people associate him with this rather than his clean look from the first 3 entries. That's how beloved it is. It's sort of Frankenstein's monster-esque with the stitches like he was built using multiple other bodies. We then suddenly shift to David going to the home of Officer Kincaid, played by the late great John Ritter. David is there to pick up Jade, but Kincaid begins to grill him with questions that insist there's something up with him.
I understand you're off to Princeton next fall.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to study?
Theater arts.
But on an athletic scholarship, right?
Figure skating.
What could they possibly be implying here?
Cymbidium orchid? You put it in a vase and drop an aspirin in the water. It should last you the whole week.
Laying it on a little thick and on the nose, aren't you, movie? Kincaid is obviously suspicious, as he should be, because Jade's real boyfriend, Jesse, is hiding in the back seat of David's car. Whoa, it was all a ruse? I could have swore David was 100% dating her. Kincaid's partner, simply referred to as Needle Nose, pulls the group over to foil their little plan. Alright, let's move on from this and get back to Tiffany. She has her whole trailer set up to revive Chucky using the Damballa chant she found in Voodoo for Dummies. After a seemingly failed attempt, Tiffany's boyfriend, Damien, shows up. He tries to impress her, but it's a futile effort as she's clearly not into him. However, she notices Chucky is missing and sends Damien to find him. After a false scare, the little man finally makes his presence known.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Damien makes a mockery of Chucky, but Tiffany decides that the 3 of them should play. She does a striptease while explaining that Chucky was her former lover for years before he was killed and transferred his soul into that doll. Damien speculates on Chucky's ability to perform.
It ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it.
Love that Chucky wastes no time getting back to the two things he does best, throwing out one-liners and killing. He and Tiffany have a funny reunion chat, but we have to cut away from them to focus on the less interesting people. Kincaid shows up to take Jade away from Jesse, threatening to use his power to frame them all for underage drinking. This sets up the idea that Jesse and Jade should run away together, yada yada yada. What's the better couple up to?
Look, Chucky. I made Swedish meatballs. Your favorite.
Honey, you shouldn't have.
Tiffany mentions that she hasn't removed the ring he left for her the night he died, but he actually stole it from one of his victims to sell it.
You mean you weren't gonna ask me to marry you?
What are you, fucking nuts?
He's such an asshole. So why do I always laugh at that part? This pisses off Tiffany, forcing her to refuse to help Chucky leave his doll body, locking him in a playpen to get some payback for his lack of sympathy. The next morning, we discover that Jesse is actually Tiffany's next-door neighbor at the trailer park after she enlists his help with putting Damien's dead body in the trunk of her car.
Tiffany! Where the fuck are you?
You got some company?
Nah, just babysitting. Foul-mouthed little fucker.
She flirts with Jesse for a bit, but his faithfulness to his girlfriend is respected, and she advises him to treat Jade well. But how's it going for the man who doesn't treat his girl so well?
Spell woman. H. That is incorrect. The correct spelling of woman.
Shows how much you know.
Tiffany surprises Chucky with a gift, his own personal bride doll. Unamused, Chucky swears he's going to kill her. He holds up his promise as he manages to escape his nursery prison while Tiffany is in the bath and ambushes her. Fun fact, electrocution in the bathtub was how Aunt Maggie was supposed to die in the original. The more you know. This was not a random act of murder though, as Chucky's plan is to transfer Tiffany's soul into the bride doll. However, it appears that the chant failed again.
You son of a bitch! What have you done to me?
Chucky then reveals that to transfer their souls into human bodies, they need the Heart of Damballa amulet, which he was apparently wearing around his neck the night he died. To get the amulet, they must remove it from his corpse, buried in Hackensack, New Jersey. I've always thought this was a weird addition to the body-swapping voodoo ritual. The Heart of Damballa was never established in the previous three, and Chucky certainly wasn't wearing it the night he was killed. To change it from, you can only transfer your soul into the body of the person you revealed your true self to before turning human, to we just need an amulet and we can take over whoever we want, is a bit of an annoying retcon. It's not egregious by any means, but it's a small rule change that has always bugged me here. Anyways, Tiffany convinces Jesse to deliver 2 dolls to the Hackensack, New Jersey cemetery in exchange for $1,000. She gives herself a makeover set to Blondie's Call Me to prepare for their trip.
Just act natural.
Right.
Jesse stops by Jade's to confess that he wants her to run away with him, Chucky hilariously mocking them in the van. Jade agrees to his idea and they leave to get her packed.
Oh, that's so romantic.
I give him 6 months. 3 if she gains weight.
Chucky and Tiffany notice Kincaid trying to break into the van, so they decide to kill him. But Tiffany suggests that Chucky's methods are old-fashioned and need some fun improvisation. After Kincaid breaks in, they set him up for their trap.
No!
Why does that look so familiar?
Awesome kill, very inventive as Tiffany suggests, and the reference to Hellraiser's Pinhead is a very funny joke. The two manage to quickly clean up their mess and hide Kincaid's body before Jesse and Jade return, but their venture is halted once again after they're pulled over by Needle Nose at the local diner, which I guess is a hotspot for all the local kids. Fed up with his antics, Jade attacks and threatens to vaporize Needle Nose. Jesse calms her down and sends her in for some food while he deals with Needle, who finds a bag of weed that was planted in there by Kincaid. Chucky is fed up and takes matters into his own hands, lighting a shirt on fire and stuffing it into Needle's gas tank. Along the way, he drops the lighter Tiffany stole from Officer Bailey and has a run-in with a stoner.
Rude fucking doll.
The cop car explodes and Jesse and Jade flee the scene, but they begin to suspect that the other is responsible for killing Needlenose. David calls them to inform them that the cops suspect them as well. Damn, that was fast. Accusing them of being serial killers after finding Bailey's lighter on the scene and noting that Kincaid has gone missing. So what do two people who suspect the other of being a serial killer do? They stop by a roadside chapel and get married, of course. Chucky rocks out to some music in the van, but actually utters an apology to Tiffany for everything he's done up to this point. She forgives him, and the two share a nice laugh.
Life sure is full of surprises.
Kincaid is brutally stabbed to death in a scene very reminiscent of the baptism scene in The Godfather. Who the fuck ever thought I'd mention that movie during this review series? In their honeymoon motel room, Jesse and Jade are interrupted by another couple that are into swinging, but notice the dolls in the corner of the room.
Well, this little guy has a face only a mother could love.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I wouldn't talk if I were you.
Turns out they're nothing but thieves as the woman steals their wallet. Enraged, Tiffany sneaks into their room that night while they're making out and throws them some champagne to celebrate.
I love you.
Chucky uses this romantic moment to profess his love and propose to Tiffany using the ring he got off the severed finger of the woman. Both feel that the mood is right and they have... doll sex.
Have I got a rubber?
Yeah.
Tiff,
What?
look at me. I'm all rubber.
Thank God that was all done in silhouette. That morning, after Jesse and Jade call David to tell him they think the other is the killer, the bodies of the swinger couple are found. The two get into an argument over which one of them is the killer, but a surprise jump scare from David ends it. He rides with them and suggests that neither of them is the killer and that it could be the missing Kincaid. However, his mind changes quickly after he finds his dead body. He holds them at gunpoint and flags down the police.
Nobody move! That works too.
The group loses the cops in a shootout, but they have a conversation over what the hell is going on with the two living dolls they've been riding with.
Well, it's a long story.
It sure is.
In fact, if it was a movie, it would take 3 or 4 sequels just to do it justice.
Over the radio, they hear that the fingerprints of Charles Lee Ray have been found at the crime scenes, prompting the police to exhume his body from the Hackensack Cemetery. Wanting to get there in time, Chucky recommends they ditch the van and upgrade to something inconspicuous, but with a little style. So they steal an RV from a random old couple they killed. Everything seems to be going Chucky and Tiffany's way, but Jesse and Jade are able to turn the two against each other and get the upper hand on them by locking Tiffany in the oven and pushing Chucky out the window, but it leads to the RV crashing. Jesse rescues Jade as the RV is set to go up in flames, but she gets taken by Chucky. A burnt-up Tiffany is then taken by Jesse, and the race is on to the cemetery. Chucky makes it there first, killing a random gravedigger, and forces Jade to open his coffin and grab the amulet.
Oh, bitch! You broke my neck!
Jesse shows up with Tiffany, and there's a prisoner exchange between the women. Chucky is disgusted with the extra crispy Tiffany, so I guess he figured he would try to stab Jade in the back, but Jesse takes the hit instead. Way to damage your new body there, Chuck. He begins the chant, but before he can finish, Tiffany asks for a kiss, but she literally stabs him in the back, claiming that the two of them belong dead.
Goodbye, darling. I'll see you in hell.
Of course that couldn't kill Chucky, and the two get in a shovel fight, ending with a knife in Tiffany's stomach. Jade knocks Chucky into his grave just as Detective Preston conveniently arrives. She steals his gun and points it at Chucky.
Go ahead and shoot! I'll be back. I always come back! Yay, but dying is such a bitch.
He's shot to death, and Detective Preston clears Jesse and Jade of any suspicion. He then takes it upon himself to inspect the dead body of Tiffany. Poking it repeatedly won't possibly lead to anything bad. Wow, what a great cliffhanger. There's no way they could possibly fuck that up. My overall thoughts on Bride of Chucky. It's a fun departure in the series. It clearly isn't trying to be scary because, as I've said a few times, the concept of this killer doll can't be taken overly serious for too long. It absolutely works as a dark comedy in the same vein as Natural Born Killers. I find myself laughing way more than finding a scene or shot that's creepy. I think the self-awareness that was prevalent in Scream is executed better here than in a lot of the other copycats that were coming out around the same time. Chucky is definitely at his funniest with his hilarious reactions to all the bullshit going on around him. Brad Dourif consistently knocks it out of the park with his voice acting and delivery. He's got an answer for everything and cracks me up quite a bit. Bringing in Tiffany to be his partner in crime is a fun addition and changes things up in a positive way. Jennifer Tilly performs well in both human and doll roles. She's actually kind of a tragic character who clung onto the memory of her old flame and went through the trouble of resurrecting him, only to realize that he's still a piece of shit. Her interactions with Chucky, whether they're getting along or fighting, help us see different sides to him. It's a nice change up to see someone alongside him build a relationship, keep up with his homicidal tendencies, and teach him some new tricks. The two of them are without a doubt the main characters of the movie, more so than the human characters. We follow them from the very beginning and watch their relationship go through actual development, although I could have done just fine without the doll sex scene. This was definitely the breath of fresh air the franchise desperately needed after being dormant for 7 years thanks to the fairly meh Child's Play 3. The kills by both Chucky and Tiffany are pretty great, my personal favorites being the Kincaid pinhead and raining shards of glass on the swinger couple. I love that they flat out make a point that they need to be more creative since stabbing is so blah these days. The doll animatronics are on par with part 2 for me, which is crazy since they had to add an extra doll to work with. While there are some small instances of CGI, I don't believe it was ever used for Chucky or Tiffany, so I applaud them for staying practical with them for the most part. My last positive has to be the soundtrack. It has an awesome mix of rock, metal, and that little splash of Blondie. It's fun, badass, and never feels out of place. My biggest negative is the human characters. It reminds me of Freddy vs. Jason, where there's all this drama going on with them, but I'm far more interested in what's going on with the killers. Jesse and Jade are such a cliche, I'm rich and you're poor, but I love you anyway scenario. They try to establish that they're just a love-torn couple, but it's when they immediately start to turn on each other that I don't care what happens to them. They're just so head over heels for each other, but there's zero trust because they're so quick to accuse the other of being a murderer. The back and forth, I think it's him, I think it's her, gets old so fast. And amidst all the paranoia, they choose to get married anyway. The two of them drive me up such a wall that by the end I'm rooting for Chucky and Tiffany to take them over. I also think they went a little overboard on David being the gay best friend. It's a trope that can be done correctly and tastefully, but right out of the gate, they hit you over the head with it so hard that they never recover. Oddly enough, I do like John Ritter as Officer Kincaid because he does such a good job of playing the asshole, and when he gets it, the payoff is totally worth it. I also mentioned that I'm not a big fan of meddling with the rules of soul transferring, making an amulet necessary. I get why they did it, but it makes you look back on the first 3 movies and go, well, of course it didn't work. Chucky never had the heart of Damballa, even though that was never the intention. So while I hate the human characters and the updated rules for a successful chant aren't my favorite, I have so much fun with this entry thanks to its addition of Tiffany, a hilarious attitude, an awesome new look for Chucky, unique kills, the road trip story angle, and amusing humor. I give Bride of Chucky 4 Heart of Damballas out of 5. But let me know your thoughts. Did you like that this strayed away from horror and focused more on comedy? Or would you have preferred a creepier tone? Do you like the inclusion of Tiffany? And what was your favorite kill? Don't forget to subscribe and follow my Twitter and Instagram. Links to those are in the description. Next week, I contemplate continuing this whole review series as I'm forced to watch Seed of Chucky. Until next time, peace.